Tick tock. The game and the wheels continue to turn, baby. You saw temporarily that logo has shifted to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's Eagles week, and we got to get right into it. Let's go. Boy Green Daily starts right now. Zoinks! But it is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Well, of course, Trevor Sycamore is right, you handsome bastard, and I certainly didn't pay him to say those things. Or did I? Who knows? Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show every gosh darn day. And we got a spectacular guest. I've been missing her. I've been having withdrawals. I've been going to my doctor saying, I'm missing Rivka Board. How can I get her back in my life? And he said, well, just invite her back on the show. I said, oh, okay. And she came on. So here we go. Rivka Board of JetsXFactor.com, baby. What's up, Rivka? Good morning.
Okay. Hi, Paul. Thanks for that intro. Since everyone else makes references to it, I will also.
Yeah, there you go. There's like a pressure every time. Nice intro. Yeah, you say it. Yeah. So it's been a nice little mojo juice going on there. But Rivka, before we get started, I've got a lot of energy and we're flying around all over Jet stuff. But sometimes there are things that go beyond football, and a unified message here. To start Boy Green Daily. So let me just hand it right over to you before we get all crazy.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I would be remiss if I didn't say anything before we got started just about what's going on in Israel, and my thoughts and prayers and my heart are with the families that and the people that, and it's hard to even put into words what was going on, but just stay safe and hug your family, and we're thinking of you.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on over there. So again, send everything you guys can. Prayer is important. Love is important. All of those things. We need more love of the world with everything that's going on. So guys, just again, throw your prayers out for as much as you can. And let's just try to pray that this situation gets resolved and as cleanly as possible with all the, I hate seeing everything we're seeing on the news right now. So again, our thoughts, love, and everything, Rivka. That's a proper way to start today's show in a crazy football world that we're in, I think.
Okay. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Of course. And what I try to, I don't know if you've ever heard this before. I want to reestablish that, not that I've invented this sort of thing, but one of the reasons I got to do both sports talk radio and whatever the hell we're calling this thing, I keep telling my fiance is a job, and I do this for a living. Whatever that means. I will tell her that what I try to do is be a distraction for people in their lives on whatever happens to be going on. And hopefully they can escape, because people deal with personal things every day, or obviously something even as serious as this. And hopefully this allows you guys to put that away for a little bit, 20 minutes in this case, and try to get away, have a few cheap laughs or forced compliments to my podcast intros that have been going downhill since 2015. Any of those things certainly can sometimes help people get along. So that's the service I try to provide, if that's even a service. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it.
Well, another service, Rivka, let's just get it out of the way because it's kind of awkward. I'm sure, Michael Nania is like hovering beside you off camera. I'm sure Dalvin Cook and that sort of thing. Is there anything you want to get off your chest about Dalvin Cook before we even get started on this program? I'm sure you have thoughts.
With Breece Hall looking as good as he is, I feel a little mellowed out by that because hopefully
Excellent.
they'll just give him the ball, just feed him the rock, and Cook won't even be that involved, so it won't matter that much. But it kind of upsets me more than anything else that I was screaming all offseason for Teddy Bridgewater, And the Jets went, and look, beside, leaving aside that Zach has looked a little bit better in the last couple of games, just the fact that the Jets ended up in the exact same place that they were last year, trying to make it work somehow with a quarterback who, has had his tremendous struggles. They couldn't spend the $5 million to get Bridgewater, but they spent the $8.5 million for Cook. That's the main thing that upsets me. It's not even so much the Zonovan Knight thing. I know that was a controversial take. Ultimately looking at it, Carter's done a decent job in pass pro, better than I expected so far. So, whatever it is about Knight, but it's more just the priorities that they placed. And I understand that it was that Rodgers wanted Cook and that's why they got him. But that's the part that really upsets me.
That's fair. And to your point, people may not know this. I reshared the clip in Jets Dolphins week, actually the week that Teddy was starting. Teddy credits the Jets with saving his career. And remember, Teddy was with the Vikings. He had the horrific leg injury. He plays another year with the Vikings. Then he reaches free agency. The Jets take a chance on him. That was pre-Sam Darnold. Then Sam Darnold gets drafted a month later. And he's with the team for somewhere in the ballpark of 4 months. They flip him to New Orleans, and the rest of his NFL career takes off after how well he looked. And he credited the Jets in that Jets-Dolphins game leading up into it with an emotional presser talking about how much the Jets meant to him. So I would imagine, to your point, Rivka, to bring it back full circle, if the Jets would have said, hey, one more time for old time's sake, Teddy, I'm sure Teddy would have hopped on the bus and came up here if that was offered. So Zach's looked better, but to your point, maybe initially we're not talking about the New England loss at a minimum and things of that nature. Who knows what potentially could have happened from there. And Dalvin Cook, again, you know what? I just say this on Dalvin. I just say this. I'm not much of a chef, but from what I know about the cooking process, sometimes you just got to let things bake for a little bit. You know what I mean? So we just got to let it cook, if I may. There's still time. I'm not willing to dive off the cook train quite yet. You should a little pill pop, Rivka, a little bit of sizzle, a little bit of juice.
So just to kind of rain on that parade a bit, Cook's one of the reasons for optimism that Cook could actually be a Breece Hall kind of insurance / buffer while he got back to full strength was because Cook tends to be at his best in the first month of the year. That was always his reputation. I mean, that's been his trend going back a very long time. So, sure. Yeah. The fact that he wasn't able to get it going was concerning. Look, I'm willing to give it to him if Breece Hall gets most of the touches, but if he continue, and I know he looked a little bit better against Denver, but if he doesn't play well, I'd rather see Israel Abanikanda.
And fair enough. And by the way, the Rock was finally split the way I think Rivka, you and many Jet fans were hoping for. Breece Hall had 22 carries. Dalvin only had 6. So there was a dramatic shift. We had not seen that obviously in a long time. I'm pretty sure in the previous week against Chiefs, what was it? 6-5 for Breece and Dalvin. So again, we hadn't had that line of demarcation. So we'll see how that develops. And yeah, Izzy's been a healthy scratch all season long. We'll see when or if he eventually kind of works his way into the rotation. We've delayed it as long as we can, Rivka, and we both did that on purpose, doing one of those, trying to stall and do what we can, but it is the theme of the episode, so damn it, I guess I'll live up to it. Reacting to the Alijah Vera-Tucker injury. And the worst part about it, we'll talk about replacement options and all that, because it's a cold world, baby. The immediate move on to replace guys, but, so he gets hurt immediately. I'm like, oh, God. Oh, no. And then when you get ruled out immediately, that's not a good sign. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And Robert Saleh says it's not good, which made me feel good because he's terrible at predicting injuries. So I said, oh, that must be great news because he's normally the opposite. And then in the morning, Ian Rappaport says, hey, not too shabby. Looks okay. All right, Ian, you're my man. And then we find out later, absolutely, his Achilles was annihilated. I'm like, what in God's green earth? So it was kind of a wild roller coaster over the last 24 hours, Rivka, but what were your thoughts? And then a cruel joke of AVT getting injured in the same place. Different injury, of course, from torn triceps to torn Achilles, but once again, out for the season, back-to-back season-ending injuries. And I mentioned it on the show yesterday, the Jets must make a decision on his 5th-year option in May. So just horrible all around.
Yeah, the 5th-year option was something I was going to bring up, actually. It's funny actually because I missed the game on Sunday due to the holiday. The Jewish holiday was right. Sunday, so I had to watch it on on replay, and the game had just ended when the holiday ended. So I check it, and the first thing I see is that, AVT left the game, and it's like, okay, is AVT okay? Is AVT okay? And then I saw Salah's presser where he said it's a concern. And I was hoping that, Salah said with Rodgers, he said immediately that it wasn't good. And with last year with Breece Hall, he said it was probably an ACL. This year he said it's a concern. He didn't say that it was. And usually an Achilles can be diagnosed pretty quickly. Like it's an immediate thing. It usually doesn't take an MRI to confirm it. So I was a little bit surprised. Then again, I have to say that when Ian Rappaport's report came that the Jets have optimism, said how many times has Robert Saleh said that he's optimistic about an injury, and then nothing ended up happening, to the point where I actually posted in the JetX Slack. I said, I hope that optimism is not coming from Saleh. I actually did post that.
That's hilarious. Because it probably did, and then we got the response and out for the season, which again is absolutely brutal. So I guess, let me, just because we're dabbling in those waters, you were going to bring up the 5th year option. Is that, and I almost feel like this is a dumb question, but maybe it's not. Is that an easy, of course you accept it based on the talent and everything you've seen, or because of the troubling injury history, do you decline that and then play the potential franchise tag game after that? What's the right call here?
I think it's a very difficult call. The thing is, last year I was not so concerned about the injury because the triceps is sort of fluky and not necessarily didn't seem as likely to recur or to affect his performance. Whereas an Achilles is a different injury. And the thing is, one of the things that's great about AVT's game is his work in space and his ability to climb to the second level and, make multiple blocks on the same play. And if his movement is compromised in any way, that could be a big issue. By the same token, they had just said that they were thinking of making his tackle position permanent. And that would be a huge thing for the Jets. First of all, not to need potentially two new tackles because Becton is a free agent. And, and just having that, that anchor where, okay, they could go after one tackle and maybe, figure it out from there, or, even figure something out with Becton or someone else, whatever it is. It's definitely going to be a decision and one they're going to have to think about. It probably depends on how the season ends, what their vision is going forward, even what their vision is with Rodgers, because we've had this discussion about, let's say, theoretically, if the Jets season fell apart and they had a top 10 pick or even a mid-round pick, do you take a quarterback? And so that, which to me was like, how could you do that? It's Packers all over again, Jordan Love. But at the same time, I mean, the Jets, Rodgers is not only 40 years old, but he's trying to aggressively rehab an Achilles in a way that could compromise his mobility. And you know how Rodgers plays. He likes to move out of the pocket, even at his age. So, it's just, I feel like there are a lot of factors involved. Do they want to go all in? Are they still committed to the short-term vision, or are they thinking more long-term in terms of how they're going to stay solvent? This could be a bit of a principal agent problem also, where you have, meaning Douglas and Saleh want to save their jobs because it came out that, Woody's not committal about, that they're going to for sure continue with their jobs. So it's a complicated question. I think that a lot of it has to do just with how the Jets season goes and where, the state of everything is afterward.
Rivka, I understand you're not a doctor, but I will call you Dr. Board, and now you're immediately a doctor to answer this next question, which also may be dumb. But AVT, some fan brought it up to me. I hadn't even thought about it in this way yesterday, that both of AVT's injuries, if memory serves correctly, happened at offensive tackle. Is that random circumstance or him playing quote unquote out of position? I know he played a little offensive tackle in college. Would that have it all contributed potentially to the injury, or is that nonsense?
I highly doubt it. First of all, again, a triceps injury, come on.
Yeah, right.
I don't think so. And I would tend to highly doubt it. He seemed comfortable at tackle. He never looked out of place. If anything, his pass blocking was better at tackle than guard. So I would tend to doubt that. I mean, look, again, I am not a doctor, but there are players playing out of position, but he's done it in college. He did it last year. He was fine with it. He probably practiced more there than the Jets let on too. They had said he had been practicing there for a few weeks. So I think he was comfortable, and that wasn't an issue.
Thank you, Doctor. Again, we're speaking with Dr. Rivko Goshdard Board here of JetsXFactor.com here on the program. So now the next pressing question, I got to make sure we answer the bell here. Replacement options in the poll of the day that we threw up on Twitter last night, which will pop up here in just a second, is the decision is, okay, so AVT's out. It is what it is. So what's the decision? In-house replacements, which probably start with Billy Turner, Max Mitchell, who are competing for both the left tackle, right tackle job throughout training camp. Neither of them won that, so they both became depth. Or go outside the organization, and the sexy name, of course, is Lyle Collins, who's out there. And in theory, you could get the best possible replacement without playing musical chairs and moving everybody around, because if Dwayne Brown comes back and Mekhi to right, and beep, boop, bop, that probably isn't great for everybody. So what's the right call? Dr. Rivka Board.
So this is the thing about Lyle Collins. He's coming off a pretty nasty injury. I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL and his MCL. Yeah. And it was not that long ago either, relatively speaking. So
yeah, right.
I don't even know if he's necessarily in game shape. And the other thing is that again, I haven't watched his film, but if you look at his PFF grade, his pass blocking grade was like 44 last year.
How many is that out of?
Well, I guess technically 99.
Oof. Okay. Just clarifying. Just making sure.
No. Yeah. So let's say 60 is considered bare minimum competence. Realistically at tackle, 60. I think this is the way PFF grades. I think tackle somewhere in the 68 to 70 range is considered average for pass blocking.
I see.
Yeah, so it's hard to know to a certain extent, because as good as Joe Burrow is, he tends to hold on to the ball too long. So, which is funny, because he actually has one of the quickest releases in football when you look at his stats, but yet he also tends to hold the ball too long. So it's hard to know exactly, like those things seem to be weird, but he makes a lot of quick passes, and then the rest of the time likes to maneuver when he probably should get rid of the ball. But at the same time, 44. But I should just warn also that they gave Joe Tippmann a 13 pass pro grade for the last game. So for the Denver game. So, take it with a grain of salt, but they're the best shorthand we have for offensive line play, in lieu of watching every single rep ourselves, which is difficult to do about a name that's just out there that we don't even definitively know that the Jets are interested in. I am guessing that they're going to go in-house for a couple of reasons. Number one, Dwayne Brown is eligible to come off IR after the bye. And Saleh didn't commit to it in the presser. They asked him about it. No. Now, Brown was atrocious, and I'd rather see Mitchell or Turner than see the ghost or the of Dwayne Brown. That was bad. That was bad. You saw how much better the offensive line looked the minute they made that change. I thought, PFF didn't give Mitchell a very good grade, but I thought Mitchell did okay. Specifically in pass pro, he, in the game anyway. Look, Mitchell is not at NFL strength. He gets thrown out of the way too much, especially in the run game. It's kind of almost pathetic, actually. But at the same time, he also missed, a little less than half the season last year because of his blood clot condition, and he probably never had the time to really go through, a rigorous training program, because he was just trying to get back into game shape, and that's sure. So that is a factor. But still, ultimately, he's not a starting tackle in the NFL, but nor is Billy Turner. I think they're going to go in house with a lack of anything, more definitive.
And is it one musical chair? So again, if you're either prognosticating or what you want to happen, either or, is it just going to be, it looks like Mekhi Becton's going to be good, but Saleh confirmed it's just going to be knee pain he's basically going to deal with for the rest of the time. So you have Mekhi at left, Lakin left guard, Connor McGovern center, Joe Chipman right guard, and then the one replacement of Max Mitchell, I'm assuming, is the guy, or is there movement beyond that? What's your
I think they go
thinking
with
for
the
this
first
Eagles
one.
game?
They go with the first one
Okay.
where just they slide in either Turner or Mitchell right tackle. I mean, I think that they technically have Turner ahead of Mitchell on their depth chart, but it could be
I do believe so.
It could be at right tackle. Maybe they have Mitchell ahead. I'm not sure how it works because it did seem to me like they put Mitchell at right tackle more often. But then again, it was Turner who came in first for Becton, right? And then Mitchell.
See, that's what I was going to ask because I was trying to follow up because Becton. So now I'm gonna mess up the timing of this from the game, but I believe Becton or AVT got hurt. And then I remember Mitchell coming in at right tackle and then Billy Turner replacing at left. I'm pretty sure AVT happened first, if my memory serves correctly. And it was Mitchell first. And then Becton came in. We're like, oh, geez, now Turner's in. I feel like I remember saying that out loud. Like, oh, here we go. So again, to your point, is that a left tackle, right tackle thing, even though they both competed at both? So is that a specific depth chart thing? We have that sometimes at linebacker. Like if this guy got hurt, this guy would go in, not this guy to transfer over here.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're getting in the weeds with footballese here, but I'm pretty sure that ABT went out first.
I suspect that Mitchell is their backup right tackle, their first backup, and Turner is their backup left tackle. But we'll see. They asked Saleh about it in the presser yesterday, and he said we're going to keep that in house. So.
Of course.
I mean, I'm not sure exactly what he thinks he's keeping in house in terms of like trying to surprise anyone or fool anyone. Like it's like pick your poison between this subpar tackle and this subpar tackle. So yeah.
I was just about to say, Eagles, you got to keep them up at night, wondering, who's it going to be? Not sure. Which, by the way, let's end on that, Rivka. The logo is now above your head, which means it's official. The ring is on. It is week 6. Philadelphia Eagles. The Jets have a bye next week. The Jets have a chance to get back to 500 or drop to 2-4. What are your thoughts? Is this a lost cause, as some people have suggested on social media? Is it, as I've suggested, this Eagles team doesn't look like the same Eagles Super Bowl team? They're 5-0 and they've done it. They haven't done it in the same dominant fashion that we've seen in the past. So I call this bird vulnerable. This is one of the vulnerable birds that could be attacked. That's what I believe. But what do you believe, Rivka?
So a few things just about that. First of all, ultimately, the New England game, losing that game just messed everything up. Because if they had won that game, you come into Denver like, pretty confident rather than it being a must win. It's like, okay, we got this. And then you come into this game 3-1. I mean, sorry. Well,
3-2. Yeah.
3-2. You come into this game 3-2 where we have a chance to beat the Eagles. If we lose the game, we're 3-3. We've got what in the next couple of games at some point, we have like the Giants and Raiders. So, you have a couple of definitely winnable games. It's just the outlook is totally different. And so it's really that Patriot game that messed them up. That being said, the thing about the Eagles is even though they don't look like the same team, they're 5-0, not looking like the same team. That's what's crazy. They're still winning. Like, they're still winning, even though they haven't really gotten back to themselves. And so, you could look at it as they're vulnerable. You could also look at it as that they're finding ways to win no matter what. It's definitely a very tall order. I think that the biggest difficulty in this game is Jalen Hurts because the Jets have not been able to stop running quarterbacks. And, to the point where they're almost, it's very strange because they're almost not trying to, in that, you know how many first downs we've seen on 3rd and long where they're running, Mahomes obviously was the worst, but Russell Wilson took off a couple of times, and it's because they're playing man. And, they and everyone knows they play man on 3rd down. Now, a lot of teams
their back is turned.
A lot of teams play man on 3rd down, so it's not, terribly unusual. But when you're dealing with a quarterback who scrambles, which a lot of them do, and the Jets play a lot of them. But if you have to consider the pros and cons of it. Now, I did see that they spied, first of all, they took a while to even put a spy on like Mahomes and Wilson. And then the spy you choose is also interesting. Like Tony Adams had a good play where he, when he spied, whereas there was one where Bryce Huff, where I don't remember what Wilson ended up doing. I remember that it didn't end up working out for him. I think maybe he threw the ball, but if he had just continued running with it, he was probably going to outrun Huff and get the first down. So, even though Huff is fast for an edge defender, but you just, so it's again, it's a pros and cons. And I would say in this game, you have to just, even if coverage, like, look, I can't even say exactly what to do, but I just think that they need to come out faster and pull out all the stops early in the game rather than waiting and kind of trying to feel out and adjust, because they've been down, every time they try that. And I mean, that Kansas City start was pathetic. And it was, again, obviously there was a nasty penalty that wasn't called. But there was also a very nasty coverage bust that has happened way too often this year. Resulting in a touchdown. So they need to find a way to come out faster defensively. Like offensively, I don't even know what to say. I'm just imagining Hassan Reddick coming around.
Oh yeah.
Around right tackle for 6 sacks, kind of like what Khalil Mack did a few weeks ago.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, that would be scary. The only thing I'll say is the perfect guy in my head who would be the perfect quarterback spy, but the problem is, like, if you use this player's name I'm about to say, you still have to put 10 other players on the field. And it's Ashton Davis, the former track star, who's been playing a little big nickel, which I've loved that role for him. But that's in a relief role when Michael Carter needs some rest. So, like, it's not perfect, but he's the guy, at least from a speed perspective and everything else, that would be ideal on paper. But again, if you're putting him on, who are you taking off? That's the ultimate question. But in my mind, that's the first place that it goes. But I don't know if that's going to be possible on a consistent basis against this team. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I hear that. I don't.
Right call.
Yeah, I just don't think. It's basically what you're saying. It's theoretically. I mean, does anyone ever play big dime where you have a third? I don't think
right.
so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Ashton Davis. I've been watching some film and I'm not very happy with him. But I know. I want it to be, but and it could be that I'm even wrong and it wasn't he who because sometimes it's hard to tell like exactly who busted the coverage, but there were a couple of times where it looked like it was him. So but again, in that specific role, you want speed, and they've been kind of using Mosley as a spy a lot, which at 31, that's one thing he doesn't have a ton of.
I would say not.
I think they prefer Quincy's. Did they spy with Quincy? Maybe once or twice, and that Quincy's not a bad idea.
Very, very small. And then in your head, when you're making do you want him to be the spy as opposed to doing everything else great? So
that's I think that's their decision. He's played the flat very well this year, Quincy. So meaning just that situation and how the Jets always get killed by dump offs. Quincy's done I feel like he's done a better job of that this year. So I think they want him, in that situation more. And he's even held his own sometimes down, a little bit downfield. So I think, I was glad to see them blitz him because he's their only line. The guy's speed. You saw it last year. It was like they would blitz with Mosley all the time. I was like, what are you doing? Like, I understand you want to switch.
I'm coming.
but Mosley, every time you watch him, it's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, right. And again, I remember it. It was the Tennessee game, so that had to have been a couple years ago. But the Quincy blitz on Tannehill, and just occasionally doing it just from a speed perspective, besides the fact that he's grown the rest of his game. So there's a excuse me, there's like a knowledge there for him that I really like. But hopefully they use it even more. Again, to get 2 sacks at the end of the game on back-to-back calls was phenomenal, and apparently something the Jets had been holding in their playbook the entire time for that end of game scenario or 2-minute scenario, which is phenomenal.
The strip was also very impressive. The way he used his other hand.
And then loose biscuit. That is football 101. That's teach tape. Ball pops up. We've done it a million times in football practice. Ball coming to the sideline. Bryce Hall, scoop ski. And as soon as I saw it was Bryce Hall, I just went, what a phenomenal. This is the NFL script lords over there going, yeah, this would be great. Bryce Hall, the guy who came in for DJ Reed. Yeah, that everyone was doubting. Phenomenal.
So I happen to be a little bit of a Bryce Hall stan. Not exactly, but I think that he's gotten a bad rap. I feel like I can't say, again, I like Echols, but I have to go back and watch a film. But I was actually thinking about talking about how Hall performed versus how Echols has performed. Because I thought Hall had a pretty good game. I thought he did an admirable job filling in for DJ Reed. I have to check what his run defense was like because that was a weakness, and Reed generally is better at that, although he had a bad year last year with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Bryce Hall, I understand the hate for him because he's looked terrible when he was on the field, both in preseason and, whatever. And people are like mad going back to last year's touchdown where there was like a quarter of an inch of separation. But I still think he's that, there's a reason they kept him around.
Yes.
Everyone wanted them to cut him. I wanted them to cut Ashton Davis, but
not on this show. Not on this show.
But Bryce Hall, again, they kept him, I think, as insurance in case this kind of thing happened, because they have been playing some dime, first of all, not a ton, but they have been playing some dime, which is why Eccles has gotten on the field this year. And also, I think it was in case, the worst happened. Like, they were very healthy last year on their defense. And, the corners are such a pivotal part that they couldn't have. Like, I think that they might have wanted Javelin Guidry instead of Hall, like to be a backup slot. I think that might have been the plan, or at least the hope. But then once Guidry got hurt, it was like, I think it was no brainer.
All right. Well, Rivka, you're one of the best in the business. We got to have you on more often. This is fun. And I love you yelling at me. That's always great on all my Dalvin Cook stuff. So that keeps me alive. I need to record this and play it every morning for me to kind of rev up the engine. I think that's definitely necessary. Rivka, you're awesome. And Jets X Factor, you guys have a lot of great things going on. Give us a quick plug before we end this puppy.
Yeah, so Jets X Factor, best place for your real in-depth analysis beyond just the box score, beyond just what you see on TV. The film analysis, analytics, combination of both. Real thoughtful content, not just what you're going to read everywhere else. So check it out.
All right, beautiful. Rivka, thanks for joining us. Thanks, everybody else. And we'll see you later this week for some more Boy Green Daily right here on the show. Thanks, everybody. Take care.